3, 2, 1. Hey Shorties, welcome back to the Short Asian Girls podcast, where we talk about everything Asian from a 5 feet point of view.
This podcast is about music, fashion, food, cheese, and of course just being short.
And of course, we're not ABGs, but we sure are SAGs, and we will talk about everything and anything related to it. So again, today for this episode, we have another special guest.
Yes, K-pop queen.
Yes.
She knows it all. She does it all.
She's a K-pop ally.
Yes.
Our lovely
Miss Emily.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me. Congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be here on season 1. I appreciate the invite.
Yes, and ditto to you. For those of you out there who don't know, she has had her previous podcast at NYC Pop Queens, and then we also have K-Pop Weekly Pod.
That's correct. I did New York City K-Pop Queens for 3 years. We did 156 episodes.
In the span of
3 years, 156 weeks. Like, didn't take a week off. And that ended in May. I took a break, and now K-Pop Weekly is the new show. So just launched a month ago. Brand
So
new.
it's still fresh.
Still fresh. It's still fresh. And there's some new elements. So I'm still like trying things out and figuring what works.
So I guess you're like our senior in our podcast journey. You are a senior, so we got our pay respects over here. So
I'm happy to be. I'm always here if you need advice. I'm happy to help.
Of course.
But the video thing is different for me. This has been really new. Ours was audio only, which I loved.
When you first started,
the 3 years, New York City K-pop Queens, we were just audio. So it was great because you could record looking like crap and there was no pressure. To be in front of the lights and in front of the camera has been a new experience for me. So I'm not sure how much I could help you. Your setup is amazing.
Thank you.
But I get the deal when it comes to weekly podcasts.
I feel like visual aspect definitely puts a different kind of pressure because obviously you have to look at the camera, and then obviously the vocal or like the audio aspect. So, but I think we're doing pretty good. Not too bad.
Yeah. But tell us a little bit more about your current podcast. So how is that going for you? What are you doing? I know you said like more instead of the studio, it's more at home, but like how does that work out for you?
So it's at home. I have the whole setup at home. I'm doing everything by myself. It's a one-woman production as of now. So
She's a boss woman.
I'm the boss. I'm
She's
like
the
the
boss.
CEO, founder.
Exactly. Director, content creator, producer,
writer,
Editor,
intern, runner.
Exactly.
I'm doing all of it. It's not all glamorous. But it's a weekly show, and I'm doing reviews. Reviews have kind of always been my bread and butter. I'm also a journalist and a writer. So I do a lot of reviews. And on New York City K-Pop Queens, we did 505 new music reviews. And we do the whole album, not just the singles. So it's really like diving in. It's kind of for music lovers who are into K-pop. But on this one, I'm also having guests. I'm doing something called Fandom Face Off, where I'm trying to change the dialogue with like toxic fans.
Yeah.
You know K-pop.
Exactly.
Fans get into it, and it gets so ugly.
They get like possessive.
But you know, I noticed that a lot recently, like for the 4th gen K-pop, and like
Exactly.
literally no cutting like that thing. But like I've been liking K-pop since 2nd gen, 3rd gen, and like I never really experienced that. Like, you know, BTS and GOT7 were like best friends. Mamamoo and like all of them. They were
basically like
so
the
close.
era when boy groups and girl groups could be friends.
When they could look at each other in a award show and not like be canceled.
I mean, it's like you could put a romantic spin on it, but then you know it's a joke. Now it's like you can't even sit this close. Or not even this far.
No, it's so, and online, like if you go on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, they fight. The fans are fighting. Like, it's crazy. They're doxing each other. They get really ugly.
I'm like, it's kind of scary how far they take things.
Yes. And it's scary when you're in this world. I get nervous because I don't love everything. If you watch my reviews, if you read my reviews, I kind of have the mind frame if everything is good, nothing is good.
Yeah.
Every song your favorite person puts out can't be the best song ever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I try to do it in a constructive way that's about the music, not like tearing down groups or individuals. But I've just noticed online, it's gotten so ugly. So I'm doing something called Fandom Face Off, where a representative, the first one is going to be Stays and MOAs. So T by T,
I saw that.
Stray Kids.
Okay.
Because they go at each other nonstop.
Yeah.
So I'm like, come on the show. You can't drag the other person. You can't drag the other group. It's all positivity. And we have a special guest judge. They're the ones deciding, not me. And it's someone from my outside life. I actually started in comedy, so I have a lot of comedian, writer, actor friends. So they're going to come on and be the guest judge. They've never heard the music. They've never watched a music video.
So it's really unbiased.
It's unbiased. And each fan is going to share why they love the group, why this group deserves to win without being negative. Because I think that's a challenge. It seems like it's always comparing. Our numbers are better. Or this person gets more attention. He has more followers on Instagram. It's like, what about the music? Why do you love
I feel
this
like
group?
numbers are becoming such like a forefront thing in everything, even podcasts, for example. People are like, oh, how many listeners did you get this week? Or how many listeners did you get this month? Or how many likes? When ultimately it's like, we put it out not for, I mean, obviously it'd be nice to have high numbers. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you don't like it, then you don't like it. It's not on me if you don't like it, you know.
Yeah, and I'm not going to change anything about it because you don't like it. You know what I mean?
Same. My biggest advice would be consistency. Keep doing what you're doing and stay consistent, and you'll build a community around your show. Because a lot of podcasters start chasing things. It's easy to chase, though. You check the likes. I wake up and I check. And I'm like, oh, I only got 2 subscribers overnight. No, it's so hard to not fall into that because those metrics are kind of what sell. Right?
I feel like that was one of the factors that pushed into why it took us a while to get this out. Because at least I can't speak for Sarah, but like for me, I knew that the moment we put it out, it's not just for my taking anymore. Anyone can do whatever they want with it. It's social media, you know. Once it's out on the internet, it's on there, so you can edit it however you want. You can change it up however you can perceive it however you want. So in my mind, it's kind of like a child, you know, where it's like the moment we put it out, I knew, I was like, oh, it's like, it's there, you know. Anyone can say what they want, and I can't. The only thing I can protect is how I view it, and like how like I protect
and how you respond to it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because people will. I will say there was one specific fandom that got upset with reviews on New York City K-pop queens. There's only so much you can do. Clearly, okay, this isn't for you. I'm not an anti. I didn't like this song. But you have to protect your mental health and how you respond to it. And then otherwise, whatever. Because what you're doing, putting anything out in the world, creating content, whether it's music, a podcast, a writer, whatever, it's really brave to put yourself out there. So don't let the haters get you down. Keep doing you. This is a hard game that we're all in. But that's my best advice, is to stay consistent, keep true to who you are, and control how you respond to any negative comments.
Quick question. I know that you had your recent K-pop podcast. How is it different now that you're doing versus before? Is it easier? Is it harder?
I think the hardest part is the video. And then also my last podcast, it was my best friend and I. So I had a partner. So the conversation was a lot easier because every week on this podcast, I don't have a guest. So there's some weeks where I'm just doing reviews. It's a long monologue. Like last week I reviewed 4 albums. So
in one go?
Yeah.
I don't think.
So it's a lot. So the energy is different.
Yeah.
And then also just learning to edit. I wasn't the editor last time. This time I am. And learning, like, we didn't do TikToks. You know, we weren't on YouTube. So there's just like a learning curve from the tech side, from the background, that's been a little more difficult. I do like, however, total creative control. I can kind of schedule. I'm doing it from home, so I can figure out when I want to film that week. It's a little bit easier to not have other people involved in that aspect. But that's been the hardest part. Then also the video. Knowing you're on camera, it's a little bit different. It's a different thing. So every week I feel like I get better and I'm getting used to it. But yeah, I still have a ways to go.
And I guess just like speaking on, obviously we're talking about podcasts, your podcast, our podcast. Why, or like what was it about having a podcast that you chose this type of like platform?
So it was during the pandemic. It was May of 2020. And my friend and I were massive K-pop fans. And we were both single girls living in Manhattan, living by ourselves in New York City. So the pandemic was super stressful. And I kind of said, let's start a podcast because who cares if nobody listens? It gives us something fun to focus on. So because we were doing it remote most of the time, we didn't go to each other's houses. And we were audio. We got really comfortable with that setup, and we just kind of kept going with that. But it was just something fun. It was something fun.
So it was like something to just pass your time by.
It was a passion project for fun. And then we realized after maybe the second week, people are listening. We saw the stats, and then we both had this like, oh shit, we need to kind of make this good. We need to like up our production level here.
Yeah.
People are listening. And then it just took off. And we ended up having, at the end of the day, we had listeners in 199 countries and territories.
Ooh, okay.
We were a successful K-pop podcast, and I think not having video kind of hindered us.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the lessons from that one into this new one, and we'll see where it goes.
So like, since when you guys started, was it just like, did you record on your phone or like?
No, we recorded. We bought cheap mics, and I built like a fort around my microphone with pillows, and I had my computer in front of me, and that's what we did.
So it was like podcast on a budget.
It was bare bones. It was bare bones on a budget. Like my partner was great at editing, so it sounded professional, and that was it.
And I feel like since you mentioned that the not having the audio, the visual aspect hindered you, because I feel like over time, especially after the pandemic, people felt more of a need to connect with other people. Yes. So having now, like for example, for us, having a visual aspect puts a face to who's talking. Yeah. Because then if people find comfort in your podcast, they want to at least know who's giving them that joy.
Yes. No, it makes so much sense. But I think I was a little scared, and this might sound weird. I didn't want people to judge what I was saying based on how I look. Yeah. I think because of how I look, because of how anyone looks, people have preconceived notions of you. Yeah. And it was kind of liberating that no one knew what I looked like. We didn't plug it on our personal social media. This was like kind of this secret thing that my best friend and I did. And I had comments when I met listeners, fans of the podcast in person, that they were very surprised how I looked. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's good or bad. But I do think now it's important to build that rapport with the audience. Like, it's freeing to finally put myself out there that this is what I look like, and it's a good thing in the end.
Do you enjoy it now, having like a visual aspect to it, or is it still kind of daunting?
I think it's part of the game. I think if you want to be in the space, you have to. So I've gotten more comfortable with it. Before we went on air, we were talking about being so nervous to put out that first video. And that was like a real hurdle for me. I took 4 months off. I wasn't sure if I was going to do another show. And I was just so nervous. My anxiety of like how I looked was just massive. After that first episode went out and I wasn't getting like a million negative comments about my appearance, I realized, maybe that's all in your head, and it's like, it's all good. It's totally fine. So now I feel a lot better about it.
No, I felt that because going back to like, we had this conversation off camera, but like before we even like started this podcast, I pitched it to AJ in hopes that we were just going to do
just the audio,
strictly audio. And then not only did AJ say, let's do visual, but everyone on the team said, let's do visual. And I was like, you know what, let's get out of the comfort zone. Cause usually I'm behind the scenes. Yeah. I go, whether it's entertainment or any other industry I'm working in, I'm always behind the scenes. I do the websites, the videos, like I'm always that. So I guess it's very different.
And I feel like for me, I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with social media, but it's fun for me. Yeah, it's like I am, but I'm not, but I am. But I've seen just how much, like, kind of like how you mentioned that no one really else notices it as much as you do.
No one cares. No one's watching your video to tear apart every little physical imperfection. And it's like they are. Most of the comments, actually all of the comments, knock on wood, have been positive. And my first episode, so many of my old listeners, it's so great to see you. I love the video. And I was like,
or like sometimes they'll go like, they'll only notice it when you point it out. Yeah. And then they'll go, oh, I didn't even notice that. Yep. And then you kind of regret, like, maybe I shouldn't have said that then.
I had a whole episode a couple weeks ago. My dog dislocated his hip. I didn't sleep for a week. I looked like shit on camera. I knew. I was like, I look tired. And I had something mentioning it in my newsletter. I put out a newsletter with the podcast every Friday morning. And everyone's like, you look the same. Yeah. Like, there was nothing dramatically different. It's, if you don't point it out, no one's noticing.
And I feel like even if someone notices it, I feel like a lot more people now are more like accepting, or they enjoy like the authenticity. Yes. Like if your room's messy in the background, then at least someone's watching it and being like, hey, it feels like we're on a FaceTime call. Yes. Or it's like I heard recently where, people's attention spans are like decreasing, but according to like studies from like professionals in the media, that a lot more people want long form content like podcasts or long YouTube videos because they want something to kind of put on the TV while they're just going about their everyday lives.
Well, and like with podcasters, you feel like you know them.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to listen to this music podcast, and I don't anymore. I wouldn't recommend this. But years ago, I listened to Joe Budden podcast, and I felt like I knew him and Rory and Mal, like we were friends. So you're building a rapport with your... Okay.
We're good.
You're building a rapport with people where they feel like they know you. Because if you listen to podcasts every week, you feel like that's your friend. So you have all these listeners now. And I have listeners from my previous podcast who are now my friends. Like I've built a community with people because we love the same thing. So I'm excited for you guys to experience this. It's a special world. There's challenges, but it's really rewarding.
The one thing that when we started posting our episodes or like even just the social media, the amount of like support that we got from that was like overwhelming for us. Or like when we posted our playlist, because we have like a weekly playlist that we put out just of like music that we just genuinely enjoy, whether it be K-pop, J-pop, or like American music, whatever. We tagged the artists, not expecting them to see it, but just because we want to give them where credit is due. And then we were getting them like responding to our stories, liking and then replying it. And cool. we would text each other like, hey, did you see this person cool. just like replied to us? But then it kind of feels good to be seen, but at the same time, not because you want to be seen, but because you're just purely enjoying it.
Well, and it's like what you're passionate about. So it doesn't feel, you're not trying, again, a lot of people start podcasts to try to make money, to try to kind of get clout. You guys are just vibing and people are responding to it. So there's something so authentic to that. The first time we had publicists reach out to us, I was like, oh my God.
Did you felt official?
Their publicist knows who we are. They're asking us to review their release. Like, it still blows me away when people from the industry like something or shoot you an email. It's the best for me. That's like the best validation. It's like, oh wow, I love this group and they know who I am. Cool, amazing.
Yeah, actually, we have like a little segment later that we're gonna be talking about like more K-pop.
Love it.
Kind of going unhinged about it.
Can't wait.
But like, why K-pop?
So I'm a music nerd. I'm a huge music nerd. I grew up, like that was a really important thing in my family. We listened to records and danced, and my parents are into music, my brother. But I came up on kind of like hip hop, R&B, soul, funk, and that's still what I go back to. Yeah. That's like my favorite genre. But I was writing for a gossip blog in 2017, and I was covering the American Music Awards. So I was like live tweeting.
The AMAs, okay.
And everyone's tweeting about BTS.
Yeah.
Who the heck is BTS? And you know, I'm like a pop culture nerd, and I didn't know who they were. So I watched the pre-show, and I was like, oh, they're cute. Oh, this is cute. And then I watched their performance. And I've got to say, when they first came on, it was culture shock.
Yeah. Being
from here, I wasn't used to seeing that. There was more like the makeup and the androgyny.
And like Western artists don't do the whole full package performance, like the dancing.
It was different than our boy bands.
Yeah.
And the first like 10 seconds, I was like, what is this? And then about 30 seconds in, I thought, okay, well, they have to be lip syncing. There's no way they're singing. That can't be their voices. Yeah. By the end of it, I was like, that song was amazing. And that one in the middle, I'm obsessed with.
Who was that?
Jungkook.
Oh, as it should be.
As it should be.
This was DNA era.
Yes. Okay.
It doesn't get any better. So then I started, like, as I was watching the Wrestling Awards show, Googling. I watched the Mic Drop music video. And then I watched the I Need You music video, which is so dramatic. The one guy's collapsing. This guy's like killing his stepdad with a bottle. It was drama. And I was like, what is this? There's a whole world around these music videos.
I feel like K-pop is one of those genres that the reason why it does so well is because they put so much into it, whether it be money, time, effort.
All of it. It's this whole package that I'd never seen before. And that night I just became obsessed. And then I became I heard Monsta X on like New Music Friday. And I was like, who's this new boy band? That was it. And CT127 was the next group I was introduced to. And then I just became obsessed with it.
And just got dragged into it.
It's just been, I say I've been in this K-hole, not like drugs, like the K-pop K-hole from the time I found it.
People say like once you're in it, it's like hard to get out.
And all my friends, like I don't have friends that are into K-pop. I don't.
Really?
No, this was not something in my world. And everyone kept being like, that's weird. Now it's fun. Like if I go to a party and people are like, oh, what do you do or what are you into? And I talk about K-pop.
Yeah.
Now people are like, oh, like BTS. Oh, New Jeans, that's Shy song.
Yeah.
Like, it's changed so much in the past 6 years, the way people respond when I mention it. And now a lot of like normal people like K-pop.
Yeah,
and
or
mentioning
like
songs to me.
Or like even if they're not fans, they'll be like, "Oh, it's this song from this group," right? I'm like, "How the heck
like
do you know that?"
Or like they start naming specific people, like people like Felix, like when he was on Fashion Week, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, Felix." I'm like, how do you know that? Excuse me.
It's the reason why it's more. I feel like exciting or surprising for us. I can't really say for you, but for me, I think I was like 9 years old when I first found K-pop. So then I was still like really young, and then I couldn't really go to my friends and be like, "Hey, do you guys listen to this group?" Because they'll be like, "What the heck are you talking about?" And then it was more like I guess taboo with that at the time, kind of like how anime was, where everyone was like, "Oh, you're weird for liking that. Like you don't even understand what they're saying." And I'm like, "That's not the point." But now it's kind of both like kind of sad and like I'm happy that people are liking it now, because when you say you like K-pop, people are like, "Oh, like which group?" But before, when I was a kid, I'm like, they thought I was weird.
You had to like hide it. You were
like, which one? Like,
or like which one?
Or like start saying those like stereotypical questions that honestly I don't really like when people say, but I mean I get it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But then I'm just like, oh well, I mean I like what I like, and if you don't appreciate it, like I won't bring it up, but don't down me on it, because it's I don't care what you say about it. I still like it.
The people that try to argue with me about it, it's like, why does it matter that I'm obsessed with this? It's not hurting you.
Or it's like they say, or they make you feel like your music choices aren't valid.
Oh, for sure.
Over theirs.
I've had people say to me, like music people, but I thought you had good music taste.
That hurts. That one would actually hurt me.
And I do. And I'll tell you why this is the best. But you have to have an open mind to it. Because people have such a like closed box around K-pop. And I'm always like, no matter what genre you like, tell me the genre. I'll find you a group that fits within that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're not all the same.
Yeah.
And it's like it doesn't even matter to like, if you don't like it, I'm fine with that. But don't like insult me liking it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like talking like to my friend recently, like one of my best friends. She didn't really like it at first. Yeah. Like she was like, they all look the same. Like, what is
that
this?
comment?
That comment.
They look like girls. They all look the same.
Yeah, and like after a while, like I started showing her, I guess, GOT7 at first. Because their music wasn't like the stereotypical like thing,
good.
but it was more like, oh, like, about girls, right? And then Stray Kids came around, and then all of a sudden she knows all their names. She has a bias. She has albums. She has photo cards, and I'm like, see? Or even when Astro.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
I remember like right at the end of high school, they had their show on Netflix. I don't know if you remember.
I know what you're
show.
talking about. Yeah.
And I forced my friend to watch the whole season with me, and she was just like, oh, "He's cute," and it was just some kind of just another world of like K-dramas, like it's no different, So.
I love K-dramas.
Yeah.
Got my parents hooked on K-dramas. They watch more than I do now. I'm like, I don't have time. There's like 16-hour-and-a-half movies. But I watch K-dramas too.
I think people before were just so used to Western media being like the standard that once like even like for now P-pop is becoming like really big too.
Yeah.
So like once I guess like the American market was like getting introduced to like these different industries from like different countries, they were like, oh well, this isn't like American music. I'm like, that's the point.
And that's this is a whole other subject, but that's what drives me nuts right now about what's going on with all the K-pop stars becoming like American pop stars, because I think they're watering down their product to fit into this Western standard, and you don't have to. Like all of these American people like this because it's different. I don't want another pop star. I don't want another Justin Bieber. No shade to Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
But like, we're used to that. We see that. I don't need music and visuals like him. I liked this because of this.
Yeah.
There's such a change happening right now. It's exciting in some ways. Everyone knows it. But I'm holding on to.
It's kind of like, I don't know, when was it? Maybe like 2-3 years ago when BTS openly like said it themselves that like they appreciate all the love the Western industry has given them, but they felt like they were compromising on like their identity as artists just to fit into the Western standards. So for me, I felt bad because it's like you enjoy their music, but at the same time, what cost it comes in.
It all changed. Well, I remember Namjoon saying they would never do a song in English. They wouldn't be BTS. Yeah. That was after Monsta X came out with their first English one. It was really successful. Their first English album came out of nowhere, and it was like really successful.
Yeah.
And then a year later, Dynamite came out. So poor damn June had to sit there and be like, well, you know, things change with the pandemic. Whoa.
Okay. It's okay. And then, yeah.
The whole thing has changed. It's evolved. In some ways, I think it's great. But in other ways, BTS now isn't BTS in 2015, 2017, 2018. It's a different deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll go ahead and do another part where we kind of geek more out about the K-pop industry and like really talk about who we like, different questions. So